Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the subdued hush of his creative haven, where shadows played across the walls, Nico sat before his laptop, fingers poised above the keyboard, ready to awaken his imagination. A hint of coffee fragrance lingered in the air, escaping from the neglected mug on his messy desk, amidst a sea of crumpled drafts and cherished notebooks. His gaze kept straying to the closet, its door slightly open, concealing a burst of colorful fabrics. Inspiration beckoned, yet hesitation gripped him. It was a tale he yearned to weave, but discretion held him back. For now. An unexpected rap on the door startled him, prompting him to conceal the blank canvas swiftly. With a quick glance at the screen, he murmured, "Coming." Adjusting his slightly crumpled shirt and running his fingers through his tangled brown locks, Nico prepared himself for company. When he opened the door, Annie, his neighbor with her vibrant smile, greeted him. Her warm smile and confident posture never failed to both intimidate and inspire him. "Hey there, stranger," she said, her eyes twinkling. "I was wondering if you might have a cup of sugar I could borrow. I'm in the middle of baking, and I've run out." "Oh, sure," Nico stammered, stepping back to let her in. "Come on in. I'll check the kitchen." As Annie followed him inside, her gaze swept over the cluttered living space. Nico felt a flash of embarrassment at the mess, but Annie's expression held no judgment. "Working on your next masterpiece?" she asked, nodding towards the laptop.
"Trying to,"
Nico replied, with a forced chuckle. "Writer's block, you know how it is." Annie leaned against the kitchen counter as Nico rummaged through the cabinets. "I can relate. Public speaking might seem different from writing, but finding the right words is always a challenge." Nico nodded, grateful for the distraction as he located the sugar. "Here you go," he said, handing her the container. "How's your latest project coming along?" Annie's face lit up. "It's going well, actually. I've been invited to speak at a conference next month about embracing authenticity and overcoming self-doubt. It's a topic close to my heart." Nico felt a flutter in his chest. Annie's words always seemed to resonate with the part of himself he kept hidden.
"That sounds amazing," he said softly. "You have a real gift for inspiring people."
Annie tilted her head, studying him for a moment. "You know, Nico, I've always felt there's more to you than meets the eye. If you ever want to talk about anything, writing, life, whatever, my door's always open." Nico swallowed hard, his heart racing. "Thanks, Annie. I appreciate that." As Annie left with the sugar, Nico closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. His gaze drifted back to the closet, and for a moment, he allowed himself to imagine a world where he could be truly authentic. A world where the person he saw in the mirror matched the one he felt inside. Days passed, and Nico found himself thinking more and more about Annie's words. The blank document on his laptop remained untouched, but a different kind of story was taking shape in his mind. One that terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across his apartment, Nico stood before the closet. With trembling hands, he opened the door wide, revealing the carefully curated collection of women's clothing he'd amassed over the years. His fingers trailed over the soft fabrics, silks, cotton, and lace in various shades and styles. Each piece represented a fragment of the person he longed to be, the woman he saw in his dreams and quiet moments of introspection. Nico's gaze settled on a simple navy blue dress with a modest neckline and flowing skirt. He'd purchased it months ago, but had never found the courage to wear it beyond the confines of his bedroom. Taking a deep breath, he reached for the hanger. The fabric felt cool against his skin as he slipped the dress over his head. It settled around him like a gentle embrace, and Nico turned to face the full-length mirror on the back of the closet door. The reflection that greeted him made his breath catch. The dress hugged his slender frame in all the right places, accentuating curves he usually kept hidden. Nico ran his hands down his sides, marveling at how natural it felt. With newfound determination, he reached for the small makeup bag tucked away on the top shelf. His hands were steadier now as he applied a light foundation, a touch of blush, and a soft pink lipstick. The transformation was subtle but profound. Nico's fingers combed through his shaggy brown hair, arranging it to frame his face in a more feminine style. He'd always kept it a bit longer than most men, and now he understood why. As he stared at his reflection, a sense of rightness washed over him. This was who he was meant to be, who she was meant to be. The realization brought tears to her eyes, but they were tears of relief and joy. A sudden knock at the door shattered the moment. Nico froze, panic rising in her chest. Who could it be at this hour? "Nico, it's Annie. I saw your light on and thought I'd check if you wanted to grab a late dinner. I just got back from a speaking engagement and I'm famished." Nico's heart raced. She couldn't answer the door like this, but she also couldn't bring herself to take off the dress and remove the makeup. It felt like shedding her true skin. Just a minute," she called out, her voice higher than usual. Making a split-second decision, Nico grabbed a long cardigan from the closet and threw it on over the dress. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door a crack. Annie's bright smile faltered slightly as she took in Nico's appearance. Her eyes widened with a mix of surprise and understanding. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt." Nico felt a rush of emotions, fear, shame, and an unexpected sense of relief. "It's okay," she said softly. I think maybe it's time we had that talk." Annie's expression softened. "Of course. May I come in?" Nico nodded, stepping back to allow Annie into the apartment. As the door closed behind them, Nico felt as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The secret she'd carried for so long was finally seeing the light of day. Annie settled onto the couch, her posture open and accepting. "Nico," she said gently, "I want you to know that you're safe here. Whatever you want to share, I'm here to listen without judgment." Tears welled up in Nico's eyes as she sank into the armchair across from Annie. "I don't even know where to begin," she whispered. "How about we start with your name?" Annie suggested. "Is Nico the name you want to use?" The question caught Nico off guard. She'd thought about other names before, but had never dared to speak one aloud. I've always liked the name Natalie," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Annie smiled warmly. "Natalie, it suits you." Hearing the name spoken by someone else sent a shiver of joy through Natalie's body. "I've been hiding this part of myself for so long," she said, gesturing to her appearance. "I've always felt different, like I was living someone else's life. But when I dress like this, when I allow myself to be Natalie, everything feels right." Annie nodded encouragingly. "Thank you for trusting me with this, Natalie. I can only imagine how difficult it's been to keep this hidden.
Natalie wiped away a tear.
I've wanted to tell someone for years, but I was so afraid. Afraid of rejection, of losing everything I've built as Nico.
Those fears are valid, Annie said, leaning forward. But Natalie, you haven't lost anything. You've gained the courage to be your authentic self. That's incredibly brave. A small smile tugged at Natalie's lips. Your talk about authenticity and overcoming self-doubt, it resonated with me more than you know. It's part of what gave me the strength to explore this side of myself more deeply. Annie's eyes lit up. I'm honored to have played even a small role in your journey, and I want you to know that I'm here to support you, whatever you decide to do next. Natalie took a deep breath. I think I want to transition to live as Natalie full-time, but I don't even know where to start. Well, Annie said with a reassuring smile, you've already taken the most important step by being true to yourself. As for the practicalities, I have some resources that might help, and I'd be happy to accompany you to support groups or medical consultations if you'd like. Tears of gratitude streamed down Natalie's face. Thank you, Annie. I can't express how much your support means to me. Annie reached out and squeezed Natalie's hand. You're not alone in this journey, Natalie, and I have a feeling your story is going to inspire others, just as you've inspired me with your bravery tonight. As the night wore on, Natalie and Annie talked for hours. They laughed, they cried, and they began to plan for a future where Natalie could live openly as her true self. When Annie finally left in the early hours of the morning, Natalie felt a sense of hope and possibility she'd never experienced before. Sitting down at her laptop, Natalie opened a new document. The cursor blinked, but this time it wasn't mocking. It was an invitation. With trembling fingers, she began to type. The woman in the mirror smiled back at me, and for the first time, I recognized her as myself. The words flowed freely, telling a story of transformation, self-discovery, and the power of authenticity. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Natalie realized she had written the first chapter of her new life. In the weeks that followed, Natalie's world transformed. With Annie's unwavering support, she began the process of transitioning. Each step, though challenging, brought her closer to aligning her outer appearance with her inner truth. One sunny afternoon, Natalie stood nervously outside a small boutique, her hand clasped tightly in Annie's. You've got this, Annie reassured her. Remember, this is about finding clothes that make you feel comfortable and confident. Taking a deep breath, Natalie pushed open the door. The shop owner, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, greeted them warmly. Welcome, ladies! How can I help you today? Natalie froze for a moment, but Annie gave her hand a gentle squeeze. My friend here is looking for a new wardrobe, Annie explained. Something professional but feminine. The shop owner's smile never wavered. Wonderful! Let's see what we can find. What's your name, dear? Natalie, she replied, her voice growing stronger. My name is Natalie. As they browsed the racks, Natalie's confidence grew. She ran her fingers over soft blouses, structured blazers, and flowing skirts. With the shop owner's guidance and Annie's encouragement, she soon had an armful of clothes to try on. In the changing room, Natalie slipped into a deep green blouse and a black pencil skirt. The fabric hugged her curves in a way that felt both professional and authentically feminine. When she emerged, Annie's eyes lit up. Natalie, You look amazing!" she exclaimed. "That color really brings out the warmth in your skin tone." The shop owner nodded in agreement. "You carry yourself with such grace, dear. This outfit suits you perfectly." Natalie turned to look in the full-length mirror, and her breath caught. The woman staring back at her was poised, confident, and undeniably herself. For the first time, her outer appearance truly reflected the person she'd always been inside. As they left the boutique with several bags of new clothes, Natalie felt a surge of excitement for the future. "Thank you, Annie," she said softly. "I couldn't have done this without you." Annie smiled, linking her arm through Natalie's. "You're the one doing all the hard work. I'm just here to cheer you on." Their next stop was a salon specializing in makeovers and wig fittings. Natalie had been growing out her hair, but she was eager to experiment with different styles as she continued her transition. The stylist, a vivacious woman named Carmen, listened attentively as Natalie described the look she hoped to achieve. "I'm thinking something feminine but not too drastic," Natalie explained. "I want to ease into this transition at work." Carmen nodded understandingly. "How about we start by reshaping your current hair into a softer, more feminine cut? Then we can look at some wigs for days when you want a more dramatic change." As Carmen worked her magic, transforming Natalie's shaggy brown hair into a stylish bob with soft layers framing her face, Annie chatted with her about her upcoming speaking engagement. "I've been thinking about incorporating themes of authenticity and self-acceptance into my talk," Annie mused. "Natalie, would you be comfortable with me sharing a bit of your story? No names or identifying details, of course." Natalie met Annie's eyes in the mirror, feeling a surge of emotion. "I'd be honored," she said softly. "If my journey can help even one person feel less alone, it's worth sharing." Carmen put the finishing touches on Natalie's hair, then spun her chair to face the mirror. "What do you think, sweetie?" Natalie gasped. The woman in the reflection looked softer, more feminine, yet still recognizably herself. "It's perfect," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you so much." As they left the salon, Natalie's step was lighter, her posture more confident. She felt as though she was finally stepping into her true self, shedding the ill-fitting skin of Nico with each passing day. That evening, as Natalie sat at her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard, she found herself pouring her experiences into her writing. The story that had eluded her for so long now flowed freely, a tale of transformation, self-discovery, and the power of friendship. Weeks turned into months, and Natalie's transition progressed. She began hormone therapy, watching with wonder as her body slowly changed to match her inner vision of herself. There were challenges, of course, awkward moments at work, as she gradually came out to her colleagues, difficult conversations with family members who struggled to understand her journey. But through it all, Annie remained a steadfast source of support and encouragement. One crisp autumn morning, Natalie stood before her mirror, hardly recognizing the woman who gazed back at her. Her hair, now a rich auburn thanks to a recent trip to the salon, fell in soft waves around her face. The green blouse she'd bought on that first shopping trip with Annie skimmed over the subtle curves that hormone therapy had begun to create. A knock at the door pulled her from her reverie. Annie's voice called out, "Natalie, are you ready?" Taking a deep breath, Natalie opened the door. Annie beamed at her, looking polished and professional in a navy blue suit. "You look amazing," Annie said warmly. "Are you nervous?" Natalie nodded, smoothing down her skirt. "Terrified,"
she admitted, but excited too. Today marked a significant milestone in Natalie's journey. She had been invited to speak at a local writers' conference, sharing her experiences as a transgender author finding her voice. It would be her first time addressing a large audience as her true self. As they drove to the conference center, Annie offered words of encouragement. "Remember, Natalie, your story has power. You've come so far, and by sharing your journey, you're opening doors for others who might be struggling with their own identities." Natalie took a shaky breath. "I just hope I can do it justice." "You will," Annie assured her. "Just speak from your heart." The conference hall was buzzing with activity when they arrived. Natalie felt a flutter of anxiety as she checked in and received her name badge, the first official document to bear her chosen name. As she waited backstage for her turn to speak, Natalie closed her eyes and centered herself. She thought about the scared, closeted person she had been just a year ago, and how far she had come. She thought about the book she was writing, a semi-autobiographical novel about a transgender woman finding her voice as a writer. And she thought about Annie, whose unwavering support had given her the courage to embrace her true self. "And now, please welcome to the stage, Natalie Edwards." Taking a deep breath, Natalie stepped out into the spotlight. The audience applauded politely. Curious faces turned towards her. As she began to speak, her voice grew stronger, more confident. "A year ago, I sat in front of a blank document, unable to write the story I most needed to tell," she began. "Today, I stand before you as my authentic self, ready to share that story with the world." As Natalie spoke about her journey of self-discovery, the challenges of transitioning, and the power of authentic storytelling, she saw heads nodding in the audience. Some people wiped away tears, while others smiled encouragingly. "By embracing my true identity," Natalie concluded, "I not only found my voice as a woman, but as a writer. Our stories have the power to change lives, to open hearts and minds. And every story, no matter how personal or unique, has the potential to resonate with others in profound ways." The applause that followed her speech was thunderous. As Natalie made her way off the stage, her heart soaring, she saw Annie in the wings, tears streaming down her face. "You did it," Annie whispered, pulling her into a tight hug. "You were absolutely incredible." As they embraced, Natalie felt a profound sense of gratitude for Annie's friendship, for her own courage, and for the journey that had brought her to this moment. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she also knew she had the strength to face them. Later that evening, as Natalie sat at her laptop, the words flowed effortlessly. She was no longer writing to hide or to escape. She was writing to celebrate her truth, to inspire others, and to leave her mark on the world. As Natalie, the woman she had always been meant to be. The cursor blinked on the screen, no longer a source of anxiety, but a beacon of possibility. Natalie smiled, her fingers poised over the keys, ready to write the next chapter of her life, one authentic word at a time.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!